Hello, Hamish Conway here, and welcome to another episode of TACOS Tuesday. This is episode 66, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. It is just me. Seb is neck deep in Black Friday deal period there, so he's been working so hard, particularly last week. Well, last week was when everything kicked off, and I didn't want to go, hey, Seb, one more thing that we need to do. Can you let's do a podcast. And even for yourselves listening, you're probably neck deep in it as well. And the last thing you need now is another advertising tactic there. But look, I hope your Black Friday deal period has been going really well, and you've seen a big uplift in sales on Amazon or even off Amazon, depending on the channels you sell. And I was listening to a podcast over the weekend, and there was a part of it where this guy was talking about this gap that is between action and results. And in business, is a great example of it is where you take a whole lot of action. You don't know if it's yet working because you're not seeing the feedback or the results. And particularly like building up to Black Friday, you're doing all this work and setting things up, and you don't know if you're doing the right things or in the right order. In fact, sales might even go down as they can leading into Black Friday. And you think, this is not here, and it can really test your metal, you could say, to go, right, is this going to work? And when you actually hit Black Friday, when the deal starts there and you start to see the results coming in, then it's like, phew, this is getting good. I mean, there's always some kinks to iron out early on. And so you got that kind of pretty wired intensity there right at the beginning and just going, is this all working? And then you start to get some of those things smoothed out, and then you'll start to have a bit of a sense of relief that you're seeing maybe some record days, and there may even be some joy and excitement in amongst it, getting that dopamine hit after all that work that has gone in. And so hopefully that's where you're at now. I know certainly we've had a couple of new clients that started leading into, just literally at the beginning of November and hitting Black Friday, and just seeing some of those results kicking in is quite cool to see that. So hopefully it's been a good one for you. Now, look, today what I'm going to share with you is give you an inside look on what it is like to be running an Amazon specialist agency. And I'm going to share 5 big challenges in owning and running the agency, and also 5 big joys. And as you know, with our advertising tactics, we're quite generous in what we share, and we hold nothing back. And today will be no different. Now, I know some of you listening will be a client of Sell Global. Maybe you might be a prospect, or you've got your own Amazon channel that you're running, or working for someone else, and you just want to learn more about that. But this might give you a bit of a sense from the other side. So it's not going to be too heavy in terms of new tactics you got to run away and put into play. But it'll give you a bit of an inside look on, given the perspective we've got and working with a whole lot of different brands, it's kind of an interesting game. And I just thought this could be useful for brands to kind of see on the other side. So we're at Sell Global, we're into our 10th year. And I've been selling on Amazon even a few years prior to that. So it's been like 13 years now. And it was pretty crazy how quickly that time has gone. So we're starting to figure a few things out, far from perfect, and still so much to learn. Like, this is a never-ending game about solving problems and getting better. Now, I just want to frame this as well. When I go through these challenges, I'm not complaining, because business always has challenges. And if it didn't, there would be no value that we could really bring. In our job as an Amazon specialist agency is to solve these hard problems for brands. And so this is more to give you a nature of some of those challenges, not only with Amazon, but also in running an agency as well. So here we go. We'll dig into it. 5 challenges first. And I think that these first 2 you might find quite interesting. The first challenge in having an Amazon agency is Amazon themselves. So this is a bit of a double-edged sword, right? They are difficult to deal with. And if you're sold on Amazon, you know this, right? So I also want to be clear right at the beginning. There's parts of Amazon that are just universal. And then there's also some teams in Amazon. You've got the retail side, you've got the third-party team, you've got the ads team. So they're all a bit different in there. But some general aspects first with Amazon, some of the challenges there is just the amount of time that we end up spending on things that should logically work but aren't on Amazon. That could be with account openings, or it could be around catalog challenges there, where your eyes are seeing one thing and Amazon's bots or people are seeing another, or brand registry and just getting control of your brand. Like even just amongst those three things there, we probably spend 20% of our time dealing with stuff that Amazon should work, but that doesn't. And that's really annoying. And it causes delays. And it even causes clients who we're working with at this early stage that we start to get associated with those problems. And so there can be a bit of a problem there with the trust that's coming through. These are, there's a lot of things we don't control. We're trying to, like, through experience, do the right things to minimize the risk of problems. But the amount of times just weird stuff happens with Amazon is staggering. So that is a little bit niggly. Yeah. And that's where the people are starting out or even already selling on the platform, and then just things pop up. A product gets banned, a product gets suppressed, or, just things like that, there could be, we've seen brands with importing in, and there was one bad review, gets the listing shut down, and then it flows all the way back and they can't import stock into the country. Like, there's been some weird stuff go on that can take a long time to resolve as well. That's the other frustrating thing. These things don't just get fixed automatically. It can be weeks or months until some of these problems are resolved. So anyway, we're dealing with that, right? But that's why we are an agency. We exist. If it was super easy, then people wouldn't need us. Then here's another one. Like with Amazon, you can sell as a third-party seller, which a lot of people do. Most people are selling as third-party sellers, or you can be a vendor, and that is called first party. And when you are a vendor and with first party, that means you're dealing with the retail team, and they will send you purchase orders, you send them in, etc. But this is one of our big frustrations, like dealing with the retail team. Well, we don't directly, like with a third-party team, we've got contacts in there, really helpful, ads team, really helpful. Retail, we don't have any connection there. We're on the vendor side, and it's kind of us against them. And the retail team, they say they talk about partnership, but they really don't. They are what is best for Amazon, and their negotiation tactics are pretty strong, to put it lightly. They will suppress listings and stop sending purchase orders on key products there, because they're saying there's not enough profit margin in it. And even though a lot of that problem is based on the strategy of price matching. But these two things for us as an agency are a major problem, right? We've literally, one of our biggest clients ended up taking forever negotiating with Amazon, and in the meantime they stopped advertising, and Amazon was suppressing listings. And we ended up ultimately losing that client, because the client threw their hands up and go, we're not investing in Amazon, because of the way the first party team was negotiating. So that's pretty niggly when that happens. It's like out of your control. You're doing good work, and then that happens. It's not great for the clients, but this is what will happen. And this time of the year, there's negotiations going on, and I've got a conversation later today with a client who's got this exact situation where Amazon's going, no, we're suppressing that listing. And it's kind of this real, there's no win-win. It's kind of like this lose-win, or even when they're suppressing, it's a lose. The customer loses, Amazon loses, and the brand loses. And it's just a weird thing that goes on. In some other cases, people will just stop advertising because they don't have any profit, or they won't even start advertising because their profit margins are so tight, because they didn't know what they were doing in the early negotiations. So that's one part there. The other thing that has also popped up with the 1P side is grey importing, where there's brands that have exclusive distribution for known brands in Australia. Amazon retail will try and source those products from overseas and grey import them in, and then compete against the exclusive distributor of that brand. And so that is, again, it's just disingenuous, and it's really frustrating, because it impacts even our ads. We'll be running ads and they will have won it, Amazon themselves and not the client. So there's niggly things like that just impact with our ability to help clients, and often for clients, it can have a real negative experience around dealing with Amazon. So what else have we got? And even just some things there where it can get too hard. Like if it's opening up a UK account or an Amazon Germany account with it's not always Amazon as part of the regulations here around VAT numbers and importing and packaging and all of this here, where often it just gets too hard. So funny thing, right? Double-edged sword, but Amazon is the main source of our challenges in the business, but it is why we exist as well. Anyway, so that's the first challenge. The challenge number 2 in an Amazon agency is clients. So before you go, whoa, Hamish, hang on here, you've got an Amazon agency, you're complaining about Amazon and clients. Now, what gives? I'm not complaining about clients. I'm saying that there are some challenges here, right? But look, first of all, making it very clear, look, we're very grateful for our clients. Without them, obviously, wouldn't have a business. And you might be a client and listening now, and so thank you. Look, we are very grateful. Now, it's like obviously over 10 years, we've had some challenges with clients. That's going to happen. By the way, I'm sure if you're a client listening to this, none of what I'm about to say will apply to you. So over the years, we've had some challenges, and this can be a mixture of, for some brands, Amazon isn't their major channel. It might even be quite small, 5 to 10%. And so therefore, it doesn't get the allocation of resources or attention on it. And that means that some things we could see there that could really help, it doesn't get the budget for it, like maybe with advertising, or it might be just things taking longer from a creative's point of view. That's saying, yeah, we'll get to that, and it doesn't happen, or there's just some things can be slower to happen, and that can just be a bit frustrating in the mix. So the timing just gets out of whack. And then another part can also be around expectations. So trying to manage expectations around growth of sales, because Amazon, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things there that can happen outside of what we control, i.e. a new competitor could come in and just with deep pockets and really start to get aggressive in the market, increasing ad costs. And they could be doing a lot off Amazon and just winning a lot of business and eating into the share of an existing client. So those things do happen. And trying to manage the expectations there, or in a category that is really competitive, not even just new competitors, but it can be expensive. Like some categories in the US, it is expensive to get high up. And then when there are these like growth goals, that could be really high. And look, don't get us wrong. We want to see clients grow as quickly and as high as possible. That is what we love to do. And there's often just challenges along the way to make that happen. And all the necessary resources and resources might mean the right inventory or advertising investment to get behind it. So that part's a little bit challenging, and sometimes it's just natural product life cycles that are kind of declining there that you've got to manage that. So a lot of it is really managing those expectations, and sometimes if they're too high, that can be a problem that we've got to solve and get better at communicating with that. And then often, linked to point number one, when Amazon can get difficult, whether it's suppressions or buy box issues or there's other challenges like that, it can flow on, cause some strain in our relationship or trust or lack of trust there. So we're constantly looking for ways that we can have to rebuild that trust or maintain that trust there, and always looking for solutions or recommending the best course of action where we can't. So there's not too much there, but look, sometimes people don't pay us, and that's really frustrating. So that is a challenge, or slow to pay. And I'm sure that's like any business, but it's, I guess in this game here, it's just some of those things there where there's aspects we don't control, and we're just going to manage those expectations or balance there, or when we're giving recommendations that, look, if you did this, like honestly, your sales would grow, but then they don't necessarily want to grow sales too much, or it's, they just want to hold back on what advertising spend does go to it. So it could be frustrating, nothing too crazy there though. Then look, a challenge in running an agency is the capacity planning and talent side. Amazon is quite a specialist skill set. And as an agency, trying to attract the right talent and keep the right talent and have them doing the right sort of work in the business is really important. And so I've got to pay people and based on time, and then with our charging, we are looking at that. And then we've got to find this right balance of how many clients should, say, an account director be looking after. That's not going to compromise the quality of the work that we're doing. And then as you get new clients coming in, it's like, okay, well, when do we hire? Who do we hire? And just that kind of juggling part there. So you're not over capacity, but you've got an appropriate amount of buffer, or you're not burning out. And look, we've certainly had times where everyone's been redlining and burning out as we've been looking to hire, or that hire just takes a little bit longer, or sometimes you get there without really realizing it. That certainly happened. Or other times you've hired and then you think you've got new clients coming in, but then you lose a couple of clients and then you kind of stay the same, but you've taken on this capacity. So this is part of business, right? But particularly in an agency where it's like people and talent is your main resource. And so that's something we're constantly looking at. And we're doing some really good work at the moment, working with a coach and around how we look at the value we bring. It's called these value engines, like in terms of our different services, like where in here do we deliver value what are the key aspects of this value that we provide, that we then create playbooks for, so we can start to get consistency, and then who is doing those roles and what is everyone accountable for, and how do we measure that. But we're heading down this journey because it is something that we really need to do to just help with this capacity planning and who to hire and when to hire. So that's a constant juggling act that we have. That's a challenge in an agency. Now, another one here that is kind of interesting is out of scope or time not being charged. Our team, they love to help and want clients to do well, connected to the above points there. And often it can be really easy to, if there is a problem, we want people to be happy, so we'll just fix that problem there, but then it ends up taking a lot longer. And we should have had a conversation about this being out of scope, but we don't. And so then you end up with this whole, they can be avoiding these difficult conversations that are coming up. And then you've done a whole lot of work that you couldn't charge for. So that's kind of an interesting challenge to have as well. How we balance that, good client relationship with the reality of the time it takes to get some things done, and having those conversations there. So, I think generally we on the side of generosity there, because we do want to see people go well, and we look at the long-term picture as well. But there is a line there that sometimes we're not very good at picking up. Anyway, so that can be a challenge in running an agency. And then another challenge is pitching for business and not winning that business. Look, so obviously to grow a business, you've got to keep on getting new clients, and not expecting that everyone that comes to us or who we go to is going to do business with us. And it is just, it's like often you'll put in a lot of effort. I was thinking of a pitch recently, probably put in like 30 to 40 hours leading into it collectively, and like absolutely knew we could help the client, but we missed a key part of, or kind of just misread where priority laid with that client, and we didn't win it. We actually spoke to them afterwards and got the feedback. But that's pretty frustrating. For many of you, probably being in business, there might be a bit of a competitive aspect there, and you like to, certainly for me, that's the case. But so it's constantly having to learn about, getting smart about knowing who we can absolutely help, because that's got to be the key part. And then what's the best way to communicate what we do, and keeping it really clear and really succinct, and so it's not confusing. So that's a big thing we're really working on at the moment. And obviously there's a pricing service value part to this equation as well. So we're looking at ways that we can price that are going to work for both parties, and where there is growth, then there's some upside to it as well. But it's, that's business as well, though. So again, not complaining here, but it is just one where you just know you can help the brand, and then you don't get it. You're like, oh, that's so frustrating. Anyway, but that is business as well. So there's the 5 challenges, and so that's Amazon. I could almost do a whole podcast on Amazon, actually, if I think about it. And there's some of those other aspects there. And so then we get on to the 5 joys. And so the first one is client results. This is our currency as an agency, and getting results for clients. So 1, that clients stick around, and 2, that they tell other people. And so whether that's seeing a client, start in February and double their sales off a good base by October, or the one I like a lot is where you've got these kind of brands that people didn't know, but then we get them to number 1 in their category, and beating out big name brands. Like, that's really satisfying. Or if it is a new client that just started this month, literally looking at it at this morning, yesterday they had their best day, and it's like awesome. So client results are what matter. And when you do figure things out, and everything goes to plan, and we've solved some tricky problems, and you see those results, that's awesome. That, I know everyone in the team loves that. And so do the clients. Anyway, so that's number 1. Number 2 is related to clients still. It's the client interaction and partnership. And this is where working with clients where there's real cooperation and alignment around objectives and the approach. And also, if things don't go to plan, that there's patience or understanding to hold the path, or, right, let's agree on what we're going to do differently here. But it's really that constant evolution and working together. Like, we're 100% on the client's team and on their side, and wanting them to win, and they value the skill set that we bring, because when we work with a client, it's not just one person who's helping them. You've got literally, there'll be, say, 5 people having an impact on that account, and 5 different skill sets, from creative design to ads to Amazon support and strategy. And so all these people help with the client. And so that real partnership, like, that is awesome. And even through this year, we've been in Melbourne and Sydney and actually also in Queensland, Gold Coast for conferences there, but meeting clients for our events that we do, or when we have some dinners there, or just meeting and working through in person is always great. Like, for me personally, the businesses I've had actually over 26 years, I started quite young doing it, has been in kind of more service type of businesses, from an events business and team building to marketing agency, accounting firm. And then this business here, Amazon agency, has been about working with people that I know we can help. So that I get a real kick out of that. Then the other thing that is a joy is seeing the team growth and seeing individuals excel and grow, and will grow in the process. And like Seb, he's not on here, but a big shout out to him. Just seeing him over this year, what he has done and how he's grown is just phenomenal to watch. And I know he's working hard on his performance and himself and his mindset, and to just consistently improve. Like, he's a legend. Super grateful to have him in the team, and calling him out because obviously he's on this podcast. But I'm really grateful for the team that we've got, and just for everyone. As I said before, we've got 23 of us now. I think that includes me. They care about the client results. Like, they really do. They want to see clients go well. They care about others in the team. They care about the company. And that I've been really lucky to get a culture happening that people that work for us, they care. And so that's a great joy. And also, like, when it started out, I was doing a whole lot of the work, but I've got people way smarter than me when it comes to Amazon now. And it's quite humbling, actually, when you just see what type of work people are doing. It's awesome. So very grateful, and that gives me joy, and seeing people grow and enjoy what they're doing along the way. All right, number 4 on the joy side is figuring out new solutions to big problems. And because Amazon is constantly throwing challenges at us, and there's also different product types or objectives that people want, and there can be these constraints or around it, there's always difficult problems to solve. And often it'll look like digging into the data and just going, well, why? We're trying to really figure out what is the root cause of this challenge here, and then how can we solve this, and then actually having some hypotheses around that, and experimenting and testing, and starting to see those shoots of opportunity or results there. That's like, right, I can see that. Yep, this is what it is, and then we figure it out and it's working, and that is cool. And I think probably for a lot of people listening to this here, like, solving problems gives you a real dopamine hit there. So that's one thing that I get a lot of joy out of. And I mean, Amazon's constantly changing, right? And this is new strategies. And this is where, as an agency, like, we can solve a problem and with one client in one area, and then we can take that knowledge and help other clients. And that's one thing there where our learning curve is so steep compared to a company just operating in isolation, where they're just lacking that perspective. And that's where, like, the agency perspective is really useful in terms of that fast learning curve, because there's so many situations and scenarios that we're dealing with. So that's that'll be number 4. And then number 5 I've got here, seeing the business work. Earlier I talked about the action result gap there, where you've really got to keep the faith. You're taking the action, but the results might not be showing. And I know, like, in 2024, we had one of those years, a bit of a rebuild, and no matter what we did, it was like our revenue was staying the same for 8 months, plus or minus 1%. It was weird. You think you're winning, and then you'd win some clients, lose some clients, and we were working really hard and not necessarily seeing the results. This year, and this is in our 10th year, right? So you think have these expectations. You get into business, you're gonna crush it straight out of the gate. But as you're kind of building a business, some things work, some things don't, and if things don't, then you got to kind of build back from that. But really, like, this year has felt like we're really starting to see the results, and that kind of combination of really successful client results, the team performance and the team culture, and then winning new business and some really great great brands, and all of those kind of three things there build to, right, this is now a consistently profitable, sustainable business. That brings me joy. And it's not just I'm a part of it, obviously, because it's my company and Seb's company. But it's just seeing all those things start to come together and just having to ride through that patience and hold the faith. And this is like with any business, really. Like, there is a massive gap from action to result, and patience is required. And it can be easy to head off in a different direction, to go, well, but this isn't working, I'm going to try this instead. And then you actually never give something a proper go. And I think that's something that in the last couple of years, for me personally, I just really doubled down and going, right, let's do this. And I know there's the right actions. They should be the right actions. So let's hold the path. And so that's been satisfying. And I know there's a lot more to go. And I was mentioning some of the work we're doing with this company, Scalable, around kind of growing up, really, as a company. And if we want to grow, we've got to get the right structures in place to do that. And working with that company, and we've got some other coaches as well that we work with, and around, whether it's around marketing specifically or even mindset, that's something that we always look to do to improve. And no doubt there'll be other challenges that come along that might add into that list. Nothing's ever static. Even what's working now doesn't mean it will continue to work. So there is just riding that balance of being super grateful for what is working now and what we do have in terms of the great clients we've got and the great team we've got, continuing to grow that. And then as challenges come up, as they inevitably will, that we just bring all our skills and resources to it to handle it. So anyway, there we go. Hopefully you found that interesting. If not, that's fine as well. But I just thought I'd give you a bit of a look behind the scenes of what is challenging and what the joy has been. And hard to believe we're basically at the end of the year again. Another year goes by. So it's a good time to reflect back on the year. Hopefully coming up, you'll get a chance to have a break. It is actually something about like December, January, that in Australia, New Zealand at least, there is a bit of the foot comes off the accelerator, and then you can actually reflect and get clear on what is actually really important, to move ahead with, or time to actually get some of these processes and systems put in play, because you're not just constantly on the tools, as it were. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks again for tuning in. And next week, Seb will be back, and we'll hopefully be sharing some Black Friday deal event insights. If the full attribution's through, it may end up being the week after, but we'll get a good update on that. Anyway, so look, thanks again. And if you like this, like it, subscribe, or send me an email, hamish@gosellglobal.com. If you've got any questions about this or any comments, happy to hear from you. Okay, all the best. Thanks so much. Bye for now.